The Weeknd's Hurry Up Tomorrow isn't just an album. It's a funeral for his persona and a rebirth of his true self. I was oddly surprised by The Weeknd's Hurry Up Tomorrow as it completely blew my expectations. It's a visceral, conceptual odyssey released as Abel Tesfaye's final chapter under his persona, The Weeknd. The project grapples with identity, mortality, addiction, and the suffocating weight of fame. To me, this album serves as a metaphysical attempt by Abel to kill off his persona, The Weeknd, and not just to find salvation for himself, but to turn over a new leaf, representing something different from the inner darkness that has long defined The Weeknd. In the following video, I will dissect the album track by track, trying to understand its meaning within its broader context. To first get a picture of Hurry Up Tomorrow, we obviously need to understand the previous albums. However, since this video is focused on Hurry Up Tomorrow, I will keep it brief, as there are already numerous video interpretations of After Hours and Dawn FM. Looking at After Hours, this album is obviously set in LA and is essentially about a breakup with a girl and how Abel copes with it. As shown in the music videos, he indulges in superficial satisfaction, strip clubs, gambling, partying and drugs to distract himself from the pain he experienced. He still holds on to the hope of reconciliation, only to realize that she has already moved on. Drowning in addiction, Abel ultimately dies from all of his suffering. What I find so unique about this album is that, unlike in past projects, Abel does not appear to be in control. In previous albums, he manipulated women to his liking while masking it with the beauty of his voice. In After Hours, however, that control is absent. The music video suggests that Abel may be struggling with personality disorder in After Hours. There are various interpretations whether Abel goes through hell in this album or simply exists in reality and dies in it, leading into Dawn FM. But as the song title Heaven or Las Vegas suggests, Las Vegas represents The Weeknd's personal hell, a repeated cycle of falling in love, heartbreak, loneliness, and destructive indulgence. And the same thing goes in a similar way for After Hours. Dawn FM follows Abel's death, placing him in purgatory as narrated by Jim Carrey through the concept of a radio broadcast. Abel endures a painful, repetitive cycle, forced to confront his past mistakes in relationships and accept his wrongdoings. Over time, he grows old in purgatory, trying to right his past so he can change the trajectory his younger self took. The album hints that all of his faults stem from childhood traumas. The final song is especially telling, as Jim Carrey's narration suggests that Abel is searching for heaven but looking in the wrong places. Looking at Dancing in the Flames, particularly its music video, I believe it takes place between Dawn FM and Hurry Up Tomorrow. Abel seems to escape a place, driving away from it, but crashes. But he keeps on walking, even struggling toward reaching a light, possibly representing the heaven he desperately seeks, before ultimately breaking down before it. At the end of the video, we see an ambulance arriving and trying to save him. Coming to the song Wake Me Up, the album begins with Abel completely alone in darkness, lost in his thoughts. He seems to have assumed he would be in the afterlife, but he clearly isn't. He has regained consciousness, but he has a problem. He has no time, as he still is searching for heaven. The lines, "the sun is never rising" and "I can't find a horizon" suggest that he has little to no hope of achieving it. The lines "are you real or an illusion" ties back to Dawn FM, where he was so misguided in his search for heaven that he lost his sense of reality. Possible that purgatory was never real but rather a hallucination in Abel's mind while he was in a coma after hours. The second verse clearly depicts Abel waking up from a coma, feeling paralyzed. This track is an excellent concept by Abel, serving as a double entendre for the end of the Weeknd's persona, as this is his last album under the name. And I hope you cry for me like I cry for you. He suggests that we will miss him, singing "Don't interfere, the end is near." The crowd will scream, "I block my ears to stop the cheers, cause the stage took a toll." The line clearly illustrates why he wants to retire the Weeknd. The life of superstardom has been destroying him from the inside. Another line is, "Every time I hit the road, it takes a little piece of me. It kills me slowly." He reflects on the toll touring has taken on him and his overall loneliness. However, what makes the song so special is that it can also be applied to his past relationship, the same one from After Hours, as he reflects on their breakup, her moving on, and his emotional turmoil.
I love you. Thank you so much. I don't know what just happened when I screamed, but I just lost my voice. This is killing me. I don't want to stop the show. But I can't give you the concert that I want to give you right now. I'm going to make sure everybody's good, get your money back, but I'll do a show real soon for you guys. But I wanted to come out and personally apologize and not tweet it or Instagram it or whatever. I want you guys to know that I can't give you what I want to give you right now. I apologize.
A short interlude. At this point, he has lost something that could be described as his best feature, his voice. This also references a real-life concert accident where he lost his voice on stage. For which, by the way, I will never forgive him because Kanye was supposed to come out. Fourth track, Sao Paulo, introduces a completely different sound, blending the Weeknd's signature style with Brazilian funk. Featuring Anita, in this track, Abel relapses into the same destructive cycle seen in After Hours. Partying, drugs, reckless indulgence. His loneliness and the strain on his voice push him back into a lifestyle he swore to abandon. The track after that is another short interlude, Until We're Skin and Bones. Building up to a type of climax, this track features an intense electronic rave style drop before sinking into a darker tone. This song depicts a near-death experience as the aftermath of Sao Paulo and Until We're Skin and Bones. Abel wakes up in a bathtub, realizing he can't move and is slowly drowning. Here you can make a clear distinction between Abel and the Weeknd. Since After Hours, in the context of the personality disorder that I mentioned, Abel is now sober, but he faces the repercussions of the actions of the previous night. Partying, lust, money, and drugs. Everything tied to his persona, the Weeknd's lifestyle, stems from a time when everything was worse for Abel. Living homeless, addicted to drugs, and dealing with family issues, including growing up without a father. Abel often said early in his career that he tried to project that lifestyle into his music. leading into the dark R&B he became known for. The shadow laughing at him in this track, in my opinion, is The Weeknd himself. He's laughing because he enjoys suffering and isn't scared to death. Earlier lyrics and even songs on this album reflect that. In a way, he wants to die, but from Abel's perspective, there's a consciousness telling him he still needs to keep living.
Voices will tell me that I should carry on.
The bridge is telling, with Abel singing, "I've been baptized in fear, my dear. I've been the chief of sin, washing my soul within. Like Paul, I'm the chief of sin." The comparison to Paul is essential. Paul was a Pharisee who persecuted and killed early Christians who saw Jesus as the Messiah prophesied in the Hebrew Bible. After an experience of meeting the resurrected Christ, Paul converted and was baptized. The same can be said for Abel. This near-death experience of nearly drowning triggers a need for change in him, washing his soul from within, overturning the darkness attached to him as the persona of The Weeknd. There's a subtle irony in the song's title. Baptism traditionally symbolizes renewal and rebirth, but here it is tied to fear rather than faith. This reflects Abel's complex relationship with his own transformation. He yearns for redemption, yet the process itself terrifies him. The duality of fear and salvation is the core of the track, making it one of the most introspective tracks on the album. This leads us to a question whether Abel will break free from his past or will remain entangled in the shadows of The Weeknd. To Open Hearts, this track shows Abel's hope for change, as angels call him and he asks them how to achieve heaven. He's desperate for guidance, for a way to cleanse himself of the burdens of his past and to embrace the possibility of redemption. Lines like "Where do I start? When I open my heart, it's never easy falling in love again" reflect his struggle with vulnerability. He has spent years numbing himself to pain, suppressing emotions through hedonism. Now, as he stands on the precipice of transformation, he wonders whether love, whether divine or human nature can truly heal him. The repetition of falling in love again suggests not just romantic love, but also a renewed love for life, for himself and for something greater than his own suffering. To clarify, since people misunderstood it, it's not being said "falling angels call my name," but "falling angels call my name," as The Weeknd is the one falling. This subtle distinction shows his descent, not just metaphorically in terms of his sins, but also emotionally and spiritually. He's falling into the unknown, caught between his old ways and the promise of salvation. The second verse references Dawn FM with "Trapped inside a limbo, watching through a window of my soul suffering, I've been low, then I've seen your halo." This correlates, in my opinion, with the song title "Every Angel is Terrifying" from Dawn FM. It's not just obviously about how angels look realistically, but also about how, for someone like The Weeknd who carries so many scars from his past, it's hard to open up and show his true self to something that, in his case, wasn't there for him when he needed it most. There's an inherent fear in the idea of redemption. It requires exposure, honesty, and the willingness to confront one's deepest regrets. Furthermore, the mention of being trapped inside a limbo alludes to the in-between state he finds himself. He's neither fully lost nor fully safe, in purgatory, like in Dawn FM. He watches himself from a distance, unable to fully step into his new self. He can see the possibility of a new beginning, but isn't able to reach it. In Cry For Me, he didn't have any hope at all. It's the first real acknowledgement that change is possible, but it also highlights the immense difficulty in making that change a reality. In Opening Night, The Weeknd takes center stage again, preparing to perform until he collapses from another overdose. This song is structured like an argument with a girl, with lines like "You're too emotional, why bring this up now, I will fix myself." The instrumental at the end features someone calling him or him calling someone. The song delves into the cyclical nature of his self-destruction. He treats the stage as both a sanctuary and his prison, a place where he can be adored yet consumed by his demons, or because of it, consumed by his demons. The lyrics hint at an underlying resentment. Abel wants to believe that he can fix himself, but deep down knows that he is trapped. Reflections Laughing feels like a cry to help to someone, as Abel can't rely on himself. His reflections are laughing at him, or more accurately, the Weeknd persona. As I said, the Weeknd doesn't care about dying or taking more substances. It's part of his lifestyle. Abel does want to live, or has the hope of still living and achieving heaven. So if Abel can't even trust himself, he can only trust someone else. He puts his fate in the hands of that person calling a girl, most likely the girl from After Hours, saying, "Don't you let me down, if you let me down, I'll die in your arms again, I'll die in your arms." This refrain encapsulates his dependence on external support and love, as he struggles to hold onto something tangible amidst the chaos inside his mind. There's a sense of finality in these words, as if he knows that without this person's support, he will inevitably fall back into the abyss. The desperation in his voice makes it clear he's pleading. Also the line, "A golden blade I'm sharpening," stood out to me, and I felt it was important. Mythologically speaking, a golden blade is used in a fight against evil and to bring purity, further establishing Abel's fight to overcome his persona. The act of sharpening the blade could symbolize the preparation for the final confrontation with himself that kept him trapped in a cycle of self-destruction. The use of gold is particularly interesting because it represents both value and divinity. It's as if he's trying to arm himself with something sacred in order to cleanse his soul. But there's one important thing. I don't think Abel has said everything he said so far in this track to the girl. He possibly planned to say it to her, but why would he call someone in the track previous to this opening night and then receive a call in this track in itself? What my theory would be is that she didn't pick up at first, or the call from opening night and the call from this song is the same call, which I am doubtful of. But forward moving to the call itself, the girl worries about Abel falling back into his old ways. The structure of the song suggests a back and forth between what Abel truly feels and what he allows himself to express. It's almost like a delayed response, a conversation happening in fragments because he can't bring himself to say everything he needs to in the moment. And this is where Travis' part comes in.
Wait, I've been up during state.
He comes in super low pitched, talking about tour life, saying they're on different wavelengths and discussing materialistic things and other girls. This creates a parallel between what the Weeknd wants to say at the beginning of the song and how he actually answers the girl. I think Travis is supposed to represent the Weeknd in this verse, acting like everything is alright, while clearly struggling. You can tell he's nearly dying, pleading for someone to save him.
You let me down, if you let me drown.
But instead, he hides it because of his pride. Just like Abel explained in Open Hearts, it's hard for him to open up, even at his worst. This moment is significant because it shows how deeply ingrained his persona, the Weeknd, is. Even when he's on the verge of collapse, he still defaults to pride and detachment rather than honesty and vulnerability. At the end, the girl then asks him how do drugs even feel, which then transitions into the next track called Enjoy the Show. The next three songs are my personal favorites. Enjoy the Show is a toxic, sample-heavy love song, but it's not about a relationship with a girl, but it's about drugs. Abel says he and his substance are inseparable now. Since he relapsed, he's no longer immune to them. But as he said in Baptized in Fear, he's not scared and even wants to overdose.
But I'm not scared, fucking overdose.
Future delves further into this theme with a Hendrix-esque singing verse. Abel's last verse shows the more vulnerable side, admitting for the first time that he has trauma from his past.
Yes, I could be healthy, but I'm trying to find a reason. Traumas in my life, I've been hesitant to heal it.
The line, not making it past 34, is a direct reference to The Weeknd's 35th birthday, which is actually today while I record this. As he talks about his name, The Weeknd, his birthday is on Sunday, which is literally the end of The Weeknd, further establishing the separation of The Weeknd and Abel. The 11th track, Given Up On Me, shows that Abel failed in his attempt to change for the better since Baptized in Fear. While he says it's too late to save him, the echo of save me seems to still be an unconscious scream for help.
It's too late to save me. Save me. Save me. Save me. Oh, save me.
Abel admits to his lack of transparency, lying to everyone, but they still seem to not give up on him.
Why won't you let me go? Why won't you let me leave?
The My Sunshine part, the second part of the track, in my opinion, represents the drugs calling him back, a romanticized, nostalgic view of them, as explained in earlier songs. Abel sees drugs as something that was there for him at his lowest.
I know it's not good for me. I know it's not good for me.
He knows the repercussions, but at the outro of the second part, he sings for the presence of God in his life. He's torn between his two personas and is hard to letting them go. And I can't wait to get there. Abel continues to open up even more. It's an optimistic, sample-heavy song that gives slight hope at the end of the tunnel for Abel. He talks about reconnecting with his father, who was absent all his life, and getting past all the past traumas. He finally sees his current problems as surmountable, realizing they aren't as bad as when he was younger and homeless. Coming to Timeless. People probably thought it wouldn't be that important, but I think Timeless is really important in this album. Timeless is The Weeknd's last stand. Separated from Abel, The Weeknd's boastful cameo contrasts Abel's introspection from the previous song, symbolizing fame's hollow allure. The Weeknd is trying to convince Abel that the lifestyle he wants to escape is what made him who he is. The Weeknd rejects the need for heaven, saying if I was you I'd cut up my wrist, or in another line, get out of line, send him to God. It's like saying, if you want to be with God so much, just get rid of yourself so I can take over. Ever since Legit, I've been legit completely contrasts The Weeknd's earlier claims, an open heart and opening night, that he's always been authentic, because if that were true, he wouldn't need to open up in the first place. The Weeknd persona seems to undermine his trauma with pride, claiming that this right here at this current time and space is his real self and he doesn't need to change. The 14th track, Niagara Falls, is a bittersweet reflection. Abel revisits a past love, acknowledging his toxicity. Long in my life, I wouldn't let love inside. The chorus is self-explanatory, reflecting on a story of trauma and not tackling it. He swallows his pride, finally, reflecting on a past relationship with a girl from Toronto, Abel's hometown. Possibly an affair, as he talks about her baby daddy. This girl was with him before the fame, as he refers to himself as a ghost during that time. Another transgression takes place in Take Me Back to LA. Nostalgia as repentance. Abel opens up about his wrongdoings in a past relationship. Referencing the After Hours track Escape from LA, he talks about the constant arguments and his emotional state after the relationship. My love could fill a sea, but now I can't even feel the breeze. The line is very telling of Abel's emotional state. He feels numb and unable to love anymore. The chorus, "It's better when I'm by myself," shows Abel thinking being alone is the better option, as he wouldn't hurt that girl anymore.
And that's when I realize that it's better when I'm by myself.
The second verse takes him even further back, reflecting on his time in Toronto, wishing he had stayed there longer. "Take me back to a time the trophies that I had would still shine. Now I have nothing real left. I want my soul." The accolades, fame and acknowledgement meant something to Abel back then, but now he feels nothing for it, claiming he wants his soul back, insinuating he lost it by entering the industry. Pre-chorus tells us he can't feel anything or cry anymore. And in the second chorus, The Weeknd sings he hates being alone, contrasting the first chorus, because even though he thinks being alone is better for the girl, he hates it because being in a relationship is the only time he feels something, whether positive or negative. The 16th track, Big Sleep, is one of the most important tracks in the narrative. Big Sleep feels like a cinematic ceremony. It's the moment The Weeknd needs to die. He needs to be put to sleep as his time is over. The line, "While you barely put up a fight, ready for forever night," suggests The Weeknd has accepted that he has no chance of continuing as Abel's persona. The second verse, featuring Giorgio Moroder, is a Christian lullaby where Abel goes through a ceremony of cleansing his soul. Angels stay with him through the night and waking up with light. The outro powerfully sings soul resurrection as he finally comes to life. This leads to "Give Me Mercy," Abel's huge prayer to God, begging for forgiveness. He admits he lost his way, tempted by materialistic things and searching for heaven in the wrong places, as shown in Dawn FM. The more he indulged in these things, the more he hardened his heart toward God.
Every time I lost my way, I lost my faith in you.
But at the end of the day, it was worth it if it means he overcame his battle and is now in front of God, pleading for forgiveness and mercy. The 18th track, Drive, is a fleeting taste of freedom. In this song, Abel vows to drive toward a tomorrow.
I just wanna drive, I just wanna drive so
After being stuck in a repeated cycle of toxicity for 14 years in his career, Drive perfectly encapsulates this progress. Driving is normally an everyday thing, but Abel seems to enjoy it now. It's like a child experiencing things anew. This is what makes the song so special. He finds enjoyment in everyday things, and those are the moments where he's the happiest, when he's mindful of himself. The Abyss feels like a final letting go of things he has held onto for so long. In the first verse, I see it from the perspective of his persona, asking if he would feel the impact on the ground, essentially wondering if dying would hurt. He also finally admits that he was never truly authentic, singing, "I tried to be something I will never be," whereas earlier in Timeless, The Weeknd tried to convince himself that he had always been real since his childhood. He ends it by questioning, why hang on if I can leave something behind, something to look back at? The chorus only emphasizes the depth of Abel's persona, The Weeknd. The second verse to me is about the lover who started everything in After Hours. She has appeared throughout the album and Dawn FM. They've been caught in a toxic cycle, hurting each other. Abel held on to the memories because she made him feel something. The last 3 lines of this verse capture that perfectly. One last time, say that you want me to. The only words that gave me life. Now I'll see you on the other side. The outro is also really special. Abel promises his mom that he will pray. The 20th track, Red Terror, is on the perspective from his mother. We can see now this narrative where Abel goes through all of his traumas one by one, puts the Weeknd persona to sleep. He talks about this girl which has just been around the whole time and this toxic nature of it. And now he goes even deeper forward where everything started basically with his parents. And this is from the perspective from his mother. Abel sings about himself as a baby and their bond. Even though he and his mother are apart now, she recalls the struggle she endured, fleeing from Ethiopia during the Red Terror to Canada. Throughout the song, Abel recognizes the longing for the self he once was. Before all of this, when he was young and called by his real name, no persona, he says, "Call me by my old familiar name." And it's none other than Abel. Following Abel's cathartic journey, he takes a nostalgic look at his past self, reflecting on how strong he was back then. He isn't as powerful as The Weeknd once was, singing as much and the bones being frail now. Even in his substance abuse, The Weeknd was stronger. But now Abel is vulnerable. But he realizes that despite maybe not being as good on stage as The Weeknd, or as good a stage as he was before early in his career, his fans will still love him, they will still support him and connect with him.
And the crowd feel my pain.
He finds strength in his vulnerability. At the end of the track, he asks, "Hope you will love me till my final days." But doubt lingers. He still has attachment to his past self, leading to the question, will tomorrow still arrive for him?
I don't suppose tomorrow's coming like me.
And this comes to Hurry Up Tomorrow, the final, the last song. All attachment to his old self is now gone. He reflects on his dishonesty and love, the lies, the losses. He pleads for change. All battles have been fought. It's time to surrender so he can reach heaven. He confesses that the industry and his lifestyle for the past 14 years has left a hole in him, similar to how the absence of his father left a hole in him, that he tried to fill with other things. Unresolved wound led to his need for control in relationships and his attachment issues.
I've been trying to fill that void that my father left, so no one else abandons me. I'm sorry.
He also speaks of his disappointment in himself, feeling he could have been a better son to his mother. With my mother trying to save every ounce of my innocence, I felt her like I felt myself.
My mother trying to save every ounce of my innocence. Failed her like I failed myself. Sorry.
The song ends with Abel doubling down on his desire for heaven and transformation.
No, I need heaven after love. I want heaven when I'm gone. I wanna change. I want the pain. No more.
There's optimism. He's on his way to reaching his goal. But as Abel ascends towards heaven, escaping the same cycle he has been in for his whole career, The Weeknd, the persona of his, is left behind, trapped in an endless cycle of purgatory, doomed to repeat everything from the beginning. Hurry Up Tomorrow is one of Abel's strongest projects to date for me. fully concluding his tenure as The Weeknd. He masterfully constructs a narrative and conveys so much in a song despite relatively few lyrics, and this album will undoubtedly be seen as a classic with huge appreciation. The depth of its themes, identity, redemption, and fame and personal rebirth makes it one of the most profound musical statements of his career. With this project, Abel has not just ended an era but also laid the groundwork for what to come next. The question is, will he fully embrace his real self in his future works, or will remains of The Weeknd linger in unexpected ways? We don't know, only time will tell. One thing is certain, Hurry Up Tomorrow marks the end and we'll start something new. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, leave a subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you had different or similar interpretations, because there's a lot of things to see differently than I did maybe. So it's really interesting to see every interpretation. Thanks for watching and see ya.